So there's a feeling of fear, and implied in your question is that the feeling of fear is some kind of a problem. You don't like it. You wish it wasn't there. In other words, there's the feeling of fear, and then there's a resistance to it. Yes? Now, just put on one side your resistance to it, because the resistance to the fear is not the fear itself. Yes? Now, experience the fear without any resistance to it. Experience the raw fear, independent of the feeling, I don't like this, I want to get rid of it. Now tell us about the fear from that point of view. Is there anything problematic about it?
No, it's like a certain energetic quality.
It has yes, it has a certain intensity to it. It has a vibrancy to it. It has an intensity to it. But is it problematic? Without this resistance to it, in fact, another way of asking yourself the same question is, if you experience the fear without any reference to the past, without any reference to thinking, without comparing it with anything, in other words, you just experience the fear, is it uncomfortable?
No.
Is there any motivation in you to move away from it?
No.
You see, normally when we feel something like fear, we think the resolution is to move away from it, to get away from it. We want to take refuge in something else. I'm suggesting the opposite. Go closer to it. Take refuge in the experience itself. Come so close to the experience that you can't separate yourself from it. You can't look back and say, I prefer how things were yesterday. Because you're not comparing it. You're not referring to thought. You're just referring to the experience. Take refuge in the now. You're always at peace in the now. You're always on holiday in the now. Now, why do we go on holiday? Why do we take holidays? Because we want to get away from all the thoughts, the feelings, the chores that plague us every day, that bother us every day. So we go to a holiday and we feel free. What do we feel free of? We feel free of our thoughts and our responsibilities, our duties. In other words, we feel free of the past and the future. So the place we really come to when we go on holiday is the now. That's what we're seeking. You can take refuge in the now whenever you want.
Because I feel that what I often experience is that it's again like using those methods like to get rid of it. Like, so there's this resistance that comes in forward. So
yes,
for example,
it's
like
the resistance that is the problem. The fear is not the problem. As you rightly say, it just has a certain intensity to it. Nothing wrong with that. You don't want your life just to be one bland, even. There's nothing wrong with intensity. The experience of fear itself is not the problem. It's your resistance to it. I wish I could replace what is present with what is not present. That's it. Therein lies your suffering. The suffering is not in the fear. Fear is neutral. It's your resistance to it that is your suffering. And your resistance to it is contained in a single thought. It is that insubstantial. Whenever you are suffering, your suffering is contained in a single thought. I don't like this. I don't like what is going on. I don't like what is present. I want what is not present. That's it. That is our suffering. That single thought. The suffering is never in the experience itself. I'm not talking about physical pain. I'm talking about psychological suffering. In other words, we allow a single thought, a single flimsy, insubstantial thought to spoil our happiness.
And then it uses this also. Now I'm going to ask who is having this fear, but this is still motivated then by this desire to
Who is having the...
Who is having this fear? So it seems that there is an exploration.
No one is having the fear. The experience of fear is one experience. Yeah, it's not two experiences. There's not me and the fear. There is just the fear, and you are that which knows, that the knowing element in your experience. You totally, utterly, intimately pervade your fear. In fact, your fear is made out of yourself, out of consciousness. There is no separate fearful person. There is just the experience of fear. It's not happening to anyone. The person to whom you think your fear is happening is just a figment of your imagination. If you look for that person, you'll never find it. All you find is the presence of consciousness. When I say all you find is the presence of consciousness, you are the presence of consciousness. I mean, all consciousness finds is itself.
So this energetic sense that I mentioned, this is just the energetic sense of this fear.
That's just the dynamism of life. It's the movement of awareness. Mind, what I call mind or experience, that is thinking, feeling, sensing, hearing, touching, tasting, etc. That's what I call mind. Mind is the movement of awareness. It's not something that is independent of awareness. That there is nothing independent of awareness or consciousness. Just like there is no such thing as a movie independent of the screen. You cannot peel a movie off a screen and say, look, here is a movie apart from the screen. There's no such thing called a movie. The movie is a colouring of the only thing, if we can call it a thing, that is really there, the screen. So all of mind, thinking, hearing, touching, seeing, sensing, is a movement, the activity of consciousness, the movement of consciousness. So consciousness has two modes. At rest, when it's at rest, it's called Shiva, and in movement, then it's called Shakti. Consciousness and mind. Emptiness and form. Shiva and Shakti. Transcendent and immanent. But there's never a separate self. This single, infinite, indivisible whole never crystallizes out into a separate subject of experience and a multiplicity and diversity of separate objects. It's always a fluid, indivisible whole, vibrating within itself, appearing to itself as the totality of experience, but never actually becoming a discrete object or self.
So the resistance to the present experience is also that.
That's very true, yes. Yes.
But often it doesn't feel like that. Yeah.
What?
But often it doesn't feel like that. It feels like this resistance is some...
But why go back to your resistance? If you come close to the fear, so close that you cannot separate yourself out from it, there's this single experience of fear. There's no question of adding a new element, someone that is resistant. There's just the intensity of this experience, and you'll find there's not the slightest impulse to move away from it. In other words, right at the heart of your fear, you find happiness, you find peace, which is another way of saying the absence of resistance, the absence of suffering. If you go deeply into any emotion, you find happiness there, you find peace there. So that these are the two ways that I was referring to, the Vedantic and the Tantric approaches. I'm giving you the Tantric approach now. We either turn away from the fear. I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my feelings, I'm not my sensations, I'm not my perceptions. I am that which is aware of them. I am the witnessing presence of awareness. That's the Vedantic approach, the inward-facing path. It's a perfectly valid path. I spent the first 20 years of my adult life on that path, and I often recommend it. But then there's this other path where we don't move away. I am not this, I am not this, I am not this. We move closer. I am this, I am this, I am this. We come so close to the experience that we cannot find a distinction between ourself, the one that dislikes the experience, and the experience itself. There's just the experience, a single, infinite, indivisible whole. And there's no room for resistance there, because who is present to resist? Who is there to rise up and say, I don't like this? You will find your fear shining with joy, with peace.
Yeah, I can feel some.
You can taste it now. That just keep going in that direction.
Thank you.